Today we're going to do something that's just practical. How do you organize your writing files? Just what's a way to organize them? How do you just keep things straight? If you're working, especially if you're working on multiple projects at once, how do you track them and how do you know where you're at and what do you name files and all that kind of stuff? So I'm going to pull back the curtain a little bit. I'm going to show you how I organize and how I name files and how I do that. Maybe that will be helpful to you, especially if you're looking for a way to just organize your stuff a little different. And if you're not organizing it, if your desktop just looks like a train wreck and you got files and stuff everywhere and you're not organizing anything, this will help you, at least give you a place to start. It will give you something to work with, or to react to. And it's always easier to react to something than to just create something on your own. It's kind of like staring at a blank page versus rewriting something you've already written. It's easier to do the rewrite because you've already got words on the page. So if you want a new way to organize, or if you want to rethink how you're organizing your files, this will hopefully be helpful to you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for liking, subscribing. I really do appreciate it. Please be sure to click links below. Let's not waste any more time. Let's jump in. I am not going to show you the right way to organize your files. I'm going to show you how I organize my files, just to give you something to react to, so you can kind of see, oh, this is how that works, or here's one way to do it. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to also talk about naming conventions and how you name files to help you kind of keep track of where you're at and which is your most recent and all of that. So we'll kind of talk about that. But to do all of that, I'm going to do it on my computer. So I'm going to stop doing this. We're going to jump on my computer. Here we go. I have modified some of them, so I'm not showing you all of my files, but I'm going to show you a good smattering of some things, some ways that I keep track of my TV and my film projects, as well as just some of how I track my drafts. So let's just open a couple things. So I made a folder here and I dragged some things in here so you can just kind of see. So I have it organized: features, TV, and ideas. So in ideas folder, I would just have random things. I might have links, I might have articles or references to books, things like that, that give me some ideas, short stories, all kinds of things that I use to create stories. I'll jump into features here in a second. In the TV, and this is generally how both features and TV is organized, but you can kind of see it here. So if I have an active project, I tend to note it with that. So I've got an active project, I'd have a planning project, so the next one on deck in a sense. Dead projects are things that I've worked on or that have either been just outright rejected, or I just don't like them and they're dead, or they're too close to an idea that I was creating and somebody else and theirs sold or whatever, so I've just kind of put those in dead. Holding is where I put things that I might have worked on, so I might have a draft of it. I need to go back and revisit it. So it's not completed, but it's not dead either. So just some ideas or things. If I've started drafting something, those tend to be in my holding ones. But I just keep my active project and my planning project just right here. And then I have completed projects. So anything that's completed goes there. And I'll show you some examples here in the features folder. So let's go there. So you can notice here, it's basically the same thing, dead and holding. I mean, those folders right now are empty because I've emptied them for this. And I'll jump into this here. So I've renamed this project. This is a project I finished just this last fall that started going out this spring. And I'll kind of show you that. So this Untitled Alien here, this is my project in holding. Sort of, it's like my on deck one, so I'm working on it. I've got some notes and things like that. This is my current project, which I currently have titled Jane. And you can see how I just kind of organize my files. It's really just all of my drafts. You'll also notice here I took a break here, and I haven't really worked on it because I've been working on some other things, and I had some other stuff, which you'll see here in a second, come up. So there was a big gap here where I didn't work on it, and then I kind of ran into some issues, and then I had some other stuff going on. So this one's kind of in holding, and I'm planning to circle back to that here before too long. So this is kind of how I have my draft folders. Now let me talk about how I use my draft folders here with this project that's completed. So this project was one that was a rewrite. So someone else had written a draft and then I was rewriting it. I was hired to do a rewrite on it. So this draft 1 is simply my transcribing of their draft. And I do that when I'm doing a rewrite on purpose because it helps me kind of start to feel their flow and their voice a little bit, so I don't lose the tone and I don't lose the style when I'm doing a revision, because somebody bought that script for a specific reason. They liked it. So if they're wanting to kind of keep the voice and the tone, I will almost always just rewrite it myself. So I would do that. I'll go through my naming convention stuff here, but you can probably track those. Every time I get notes, though, every time I get feedback, every time I do something, I move to a new draft. So in this case, I had written this draft and then I started wrestling with what are some of the specific notes and what are the things that I think I need to change. So I started making some notes for my draft 2. So I made some notes, and you'll notice, if you remember the dates there on my Jane thing, these are all in between where I was not working on Jane for a while because I was working on this. So I have my notes, and what happened is I made notes. Here's what I thought. I know these are some things that are not going to change, so I'm going to go ahead and start rewriting them. I ended up having a notes call right around the end of September, and then I started drafting and adding in all of my notes, which took me about 3 weeks to do that, working here and there on the script. So I got done with that, and then now I'm sending it off again. So I get feedback from friends or colleagues, or in this case, the person who had hired me to do the rewrite. I got some notes back from them, and so I incorporated those notes, and here we go. So these are all now minor changes, like minor tweaks, like we changed a character name, or we changed one little thing, or this one little scene. It wasn't a whole rewrite, it was just a little bit. So I tend to have folders for drafts when I'm doing a major rewrite, a major overhaul. And in this case, I didn't really have very many. The script was in pretty good shape, but they needed some more character things and just kind of some different balance of roles and making sure some of the logic just tracked a little better. So that's where all of these come in, and that's just what it is. I just, write it, and then I get done and send it off. So the submitted one here, so here's the submitted, and then I also have a copy of my copyright registration that I did. So that's really how I organize. I just keep things just very simple. Now, let me just talk briefly about my naming conventions. You can kind of see here generally how I'm doing this. I'm calling this one Mr. Tulip for now. That's not what it's called, but so I have this specific script, and you'll notice I just use the initials and then the date that I worked on it. Not the date it's due, but that specific day. If I ever worked on it more than once in a day, so I worked on it, say, in the morning, and then in the afternoon or late evening, I would do something like this here. So you can see I have a B option. So I worked on it earlier, and then I worked on it later. So that's just how I keep track of things. I just use letters if I've run out of numbers. I don't do things like revision, revised revision, new revision. That just gets so confusing, and that's just problematic. So I don't do that. I tend to do things like this. So I just have my either project initials, month, day, year, which you can see reflected here in these drafts. Project initials, month, day, year. I tend to, when I'm drafting, I draft pretty quickly. I mean, this is pretty common for me that it's like 3 weeks. Just from beginning to end was like 6 weeks. So I tend to draft pretty quick. So I tend to put my project initials first and then the date. But if you have just a bunch of things that you're working on, it might be worthwhile to put the date first. And then that, if I needed a letter or whatever, put it there. This is just a very simple way. It helps me keep track of what I was doing when, and I can go back and look at each of these. So every day when I sit down to write, the first thing I do is save as and today's date. And then whatever changes, I'm saving. Then the next day, save as, saving. That's just the way that I tend to do that. So the main thing here is that you should have some way of organizing your drafts, some way of organizing your scripts, some way of keeping track of what you're doing. The more you complicate it, the more frustrating it's going to be for you to be able to find things. So keep things organized, keep them structured. That will help you just kind of narrow things down and really be more efficient and effective in your writing. Hopefully this has been helpful to you. If it has, please be sure to like, subscribe, bell, all that stuff. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for watching. Be sure to stay a little organized. It actually makes you a more efficient writer, so please be sure to do that. And then when you go to tell a story that matters. See you later.